Hey, good evening, everyone. It's time for another episode of Think About It. And I just want to thank you in advance for your time, for, just dropping in with us. If you watch it live, cool. If you catch it on the replay, that's cool as well. But I just want to thank you for your time. And let's get started. We got two more guests that are on their way. And so maybe while we're waiting on them, let me do my public service announcement first, and then we'll kick in with the show. So stand by, everybody.
COVID-19 vaccination will be an important tool to help stop the pandemic, but we must continue to wear masks and social distance to help reduce our chance of being exposed to the virus or spreading it to others. The combination of getting vaccinated and following the CDC's recommendations to protect yourself and others will offer the best protection from COVID-19. Stopping a pandemic requires using all the tools we have available. As experts learn more about how the COVID-19 vaccination may help reduce the spread of the disease, the CDC will continue to update the recommendations to protect communities using the latest science. Remember to wash your hands, wear a mask, and social distance. Let's stay home, let's be safe, and let's help save lives.
All right, we are back. Let's get it, y'all. So my guest today is, I said, the legendary, the one and only team of Hard Knocks is with us today. Yay! Yay! We got some more guests that'll be joining us, but for right now, we've got Coach Kenny Taylor Jr. Hey!
How you doing?
And we got Coach Pops. Woo!
Hey, how you doing?
All right. I'm going to let you both introduce yourselves, and then let's just let everybody know, how you fit into this organization.
All right. Well, my name is Ulysses Shays. I'm assistant coach. I've been doing TOHK 17 years total. I did it like maybe 15, 16 years ago. I got back into it last year when my cousin died. I wanted to be around family, so I got back into wrestling. I was the head wrestling coach at the independent high school for a year. I'm currently assistant coach with the team of Hard Knocks, and glad to be back.
All right. Coach Kenny Taylor Jr.
Thanks for having me. My name is Kenny Taylor Jr. I'm currently the head wrestling coach at Team of Hard Knocks. I've been involved with Team of Hard Knocks ever since the existence of the team started in 1985, and I was one of the original members of that team. Had some few other jobs in between then. Former head coach at West High School, and like Coach DeSager said, that with the death of Coach Charles Knox Jr., with him passing away as a family, we thought it would be a collective bargain that we come together and continue the tradition of a team of Hard Knocks.
Yes, awesome. And the founder himself just joined us, Coach Charles Knox Sr. Can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and how you fit into this organization?
Well, I'm Charles L. Knox, as a lot of you guys may know. Everybody on this video right now are my first cousin. First of all, I can say the number one thing, I'm a child of God.
Yes.
I've been very blessed with some different things. I'm the kind of got in here late because I had to pull in McDonald's because the Wi-Fi wouldn't work. So y'all just bear with me for a second. But if I start talking about the wrestling program, it's something that I dreamt about when I was in college. Some guys were telling me they had been wrestling since they were little kids, some guys that I was competing against. And I said I didn't even know anything about wrestling until I turned 15 years old. So one time I was sitting in my dorm room, and I had this dream. I thought about all my cousins, which is all of you, not you, Wanda, at that time in particular, but my male cousins. And I said, man, I'm going to school for free. I got my own room for the first time. I got a bed by myself. And I said, man, when I get home, I'm going to get all my cousins together. and I'm gonna show him how to wrestle and teach him how to wrestle so he can earn some scholarships to go to school free like I did. And then I started later on thinking about not just my cousins but my community. So about 36 years ago, when I finally came home back home in 1985, I decided, I got with some guys that there was a in our community. It was a North Wrestling Club. It was ran by Mike McLaren and Mr. Henry. Some older guys. Mike wasn't that old, but Mr. Henry was in his early 60s, and he was providing the wrestling program. So I tried to attach on to them, and I thought about my high school, which is West High, and how unfortunately there was no talent for wrestling. And I just wanted to try to have opportunity to build a program for our youth that was going to go to West High. And and here 36 years later, we're still building, in our community, uh, which is like a dream to me. And it's been like, at one time I had this, when I was thinking about, what I want to do, I wanted to use wrestling as a vehicle to receive higher education. We're still in that same boat. We're still doing the same things, but we just kind of changed our vision and our mission. But our vision is more now like building champs on the mat, champs in the classroom, and then champs out into the community.
Yes.
Right.
So here we are today, 36 years later, with all my cousins now that have wrestled in college, and some are back giving back to the program.
Right, right. It's a long history with this wrestling. And one of the things you said that resonated was that you're a child of Christ, you're a child of God, and you were trying to find a way to give back, right? And what better way than to help mold our children? So I want to ask an OG question. I thought one of my other coaches would be on, but I'm gonna ask this question. I'm gonna go to Pops, and then Coach Knox chime in. And Coach Taylor, I'm gonna ask you from a different perspective. So while we're out here trying to help kids and give them something positive to do, what have you noticed between kids, say 30, 20, 15 years ago, and kids of today?
Well, the difference to kids of the old to kids of the day, um, the work ethic. I think the kids of today, their work ethic is not like how it was back, say, 15, 20 years ago when I first got into the sport. And there's a lot of variables why I believe that's why. One, social media, music, etc. So, but back in the day, we really didn't have all those outside influences. So the kids worked really hard. They worked harder, compared to now that I see. Now I see the ones that are wrestling, they still do love the game of wrestling, but it's not as tense, or you can't go as hard as you used to back in the old days.
Right. Coach Knox, what would you chime in on the kids
Uh,
of yesterday and kids of today?
if it's just pertaining to sports, it's kind of in the same realm that Coach Pops was saying that, when I was a youth, and I won't share any names, but what I can tell this story is that I was getting coached for football, and there was this big giant coach that said, "Hey, little man." Of course, I've been small in stature most of my life, but he said, "Little man, I'm gonna give this guy 10 yards, and if you don't catch him, I'm gonna take these size 9 shoes of mine and put them right up in your bleep bleep." And I was so afraid when he blew the whistle. I was able to catch the bigger, faster guy because he put so much fear into me, and I got it done. But the most outstanding thing that stood out from that when when I made the tackle. All the coaches ran up to me and picked me up and made me feel like I was a king. So some of those things nowadays wouldn't be uh, allowed to help coach. Sometimes we back in the older days we were able to put a little more pressure to get things done. As far as now, even with discipline, you can't take the discipline as far as you could back in the day. It's kind of like schools. You know, kids sometimes deserve squats and they don't get them. So we had to make some adjustments, and we've been able to do that.
Right. Okay. So, uh, Coach Taylor Jr., So because you're probably the youngest one on here that has actually wrestled, and Pops was actually one of your coaches. So now that you are a coach, what do you remember about being a kid wrestler, and then what will you bring to this new generation of kid wrestlers?
Kind of like Coach Knox and Coach Pop said, back when I was younger and wrestling, a lot of things were allowed. The work ethic of the kids, where we were pushed a little bit harder. We were, practice were more intense. And now that I'm coaching, it's back when I was competing back in the 80s and 90s, and now it's 2022. You have to kind of go with the what's new and what's in, and that's kind of fitting and being a coach of a kid. You got to kind of fit to their needs, and just keeping the game intense and letting the kids know that this is an intense sport, but at the same time provide a little bit of fun to it, because wrestling is not a fun sport. It's not. You have to learn to love it. You gotta wrestling is like a lifestyle. So you gotta find a way to keep those kids entwined, entertained with the sport of wrestling. And if who wrestling's like a controlled fight. So you go to practice every day, you fight your opponent or your practice partner. But in doing that, you have to provide some brotherhood, some familyhood, some togetherness to let them know that, hey, we're here for you, because it's a pretty intense sport.
Very intense. My son wrestled, and since his last name was McCray, everybody didn't always connect him to the family names,
Right,
but he made a little name for himself too.
right.
And I just remember I was just as intense
Right.
as a parent.
Wow.
And so
It's a different world.
and so we see the videos. I need everybody to tell me a story about a wrestling mom, because I know, man, wrestling moms to me are probably the worst moms, because we intense. So let's give a mom story.
Well, I got one right here. Back with my son, Scoot, Ulysses Shazer Jr., he was wrestling at state, and we was down at the Kansas Coliseum floor back when the Coliseum was around, and the stands set up kind of high, and we was low on the floor. And my son was wrestling for a championship. It got into overtime, and the call didn't go his way. And his mom literally jumped from, I'm gonna say, at least 6 feet up in the stands.
Right.
That was 8. It was 8 feet.
Or maybe 8 feet. And by the time the referee raised the other guy's hand, my son's mom jumped off the stands, and she was literally coming on the mat at the time the referee gave the match to the other kids. So that was pretty awesome right there. I mean, I looked around and she was there, and you had to hold her back, but she felt for her son. So that was a mom moment right there. It may be infamous, but it was a moment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Any other mom stories?
Well, I got a. Go ahead, Kenny.
Go ahead, Coach Knox. Go ahead.
Well, I got a story. It's not dealing with any of our parents, but when I first, this is almost about 20 years ago, 20 to 25 years ago, and our challenge with our program is we like to take our children or our youth into other areas, other states, and we were challenged down there in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and we were at Oklahoma State, and we were back in the locker room back in 25 years ago when the kids could strip completely down for weigh-ins, and we're in the back of the Oklahoma State locker room, and I look up, and the kids are all, there's boys 16 and under, and they're all stripped down, and I look up and I see this lady in the locker room, and it was kind of strange to me because, man, these are youth around here. What is this lady doing in the locker room? So I finally said something to someone, and they said, "This is Oklahoma," and this is the part when I really realized that parents go above and beyond. This same lady, at the end of weigh-ins, the coach announced that weigh-ins are over, and this lady runs up to the coach and says, "No, please allow my son." I mean, she went on for about 90 seconds, and finally the coaches gave in and said, "We're going to give you one more chance to weigh in." And this lady dropped down on her knees, and this is the old meat scales. She dropped on her knees and blew that scale completely off.
Wow.
And the boy made weight. And I said, so then I knew that I told, when I got back with my parents, I said, hey, we got to be ready to go because down here in Oklahoma, it's cutthroat.
Yeah.
Right. They don't play in Oklahoma.
Not at all.
My mom, I'm gonna tell a story about my mom. Growing up, and I didn't have as much success growing up when I first started wrestling. But she stuck around through those days of a lot of whoopings that I took from my opponents. But in high school, those tables turned, and two of my state finals matches, neither one of them my mom was able to sit in the arena to watch because of like you said, the stress level and the anxiety of not knowing if your son is going to win or lose. She had confidence in me that I was going to win, but just seeing me battle with the particular opponents that I had to battle in the finals, she was very nervous. So she stepped outside of the Coliseum arena and had to watch my matches on video. So that's my mom's story.
Right. And that resonates, guys. When my son used to wrestle, like I didn't want to miss a second. But it was sometimes you're like, oh man, I can't watch. So I think wrestling moms, man, we go through so much. And so again, my hat's off to all moms because wrestling is like what they say, imano, that's man on man.
Yeah.
Football, you got what, 10 other people with you, 11?
Yeah.
Basketball, you got what, 4 other people with you? But in wrestling, although you have a team support, it's just you and that opponent on that mat, and can nobody help you. Your coaches can do this,
and in wrestling, you can't take a break. You can't rest.
No.
Right.
It's not quite as long as a football game or a basketball game, but there's no resting, no timeouts.
It's so intense. Yeah. So
before you go on, LaWanda, I want to share a story about Kenny's mom. So when I got back from school, I'm going to tell my age, but Pops was just graduating from high school, but so he was just not getting ready to decide where he's going to join the military, so he wasn't around. But for the second year, when I finally took over the program, and we were called Wichita West Wrestling Club, and Coach Kenny's dad hadn't started helping us coach, but Kenny's mom took on to be my assistant coach. So it was just me and her for 1 year. She would help me drive around, pick kids up, help them, take them home. So, some people frown on that today that, Team of Hard Knocks, we like helping with rides. We still do it today. Lachelle Henderson, right now, she's helping me with rides, picking kids up, driving across town, giving them rides around town. But not only did Pam help me with rides, but she kept the times. She would blow the whistle. She would keep me on time and task, because all y'all know that once I get started wrestling, I can coach for, say the practice is going to start and be 2 hours and end up in 6 hours. I've had that happen before. So,
yeah.
Right.
So, but Pam and her, and then your mom, my Aunt Opal, they're the backbones of this program. Them two ladies. And my Aunt Opal, she has her own ways of telling me when a kid is ready they're going to be elite. And she'll come up to me and says, oh, he is good.
Yeah.
And she knows, and the way she can tell is she always looks at hand controls. She always talks about hand control. And from that point on, when I hear her say that, that's when I usually tell the kid, I sneak over to him and say, you're ready. We're going to challenge you.
Right. So I know, Coach Knox, I know you've been asked this before, and we talk about that wrestling is a great sport, or a great way to lead to an education, to at least get your feet wet in the college. And, and I'm a strong believer, I have degrees, but I'm a strong believer that college is for everybody. But I do think that people should at least get their feet wet. So off the top of your head, can you remember how many people have stepped on a college mat because of wrestling that came from Team of Hard Knocks?
Well, just probably the most impressive thing I can say about Team of Hard Knocks, at one time through an 8-year period, we had 7 of our wrestlers going full scholarships to the University of Oklahoma. And when you really think about that, that's deep. 7 kids at the University of Oklahoma in an 8-year period. And at that time, we had guys at Nebraska, Cal Poly, Minnesota, South Dakota. We had 3 guys that came through our programs that had the opportunity to wrestle for South Dakota State. So, and then numerous guys come to junior college, and some guys that later on, when they got started, later they went back, and there's many of the guys that even turned the opportunity down. And now there's another program that's out in Colby, Kansas. It's a tech school, and they offer wrestling. It's a top-notch program. And so it opens the doors for more guys to get some personal, next level training, not just college, because all of us can't go to college. We still need guys to do the auto mechanic work, uh, carpentry, and other things like that. So, I mean, it's opened up the door. So, I keep getting asked that question: how many of your wrestlers have? I'm really, when I think about it, I'm amazed about it.
Right, right. I'm glad to hear that some tech schools are have a wrestling program, because in this society that we live in today, I my one of and Tori, I mean Kenny Taylor. I told this story when I spoke to some of his students over at West High. Um, I had a pipe break in my front yard, but before the plumber could do his job, somebody had to come and dig that hole so he can get to the pipes. And I had to pay that guy like $400 or $500 just to dig that hole. So there's a lot of ways to make money. And so if tech schools are opening their doors and offering opportunities, I'm like, man, more power to them, because shoot, if you could make that kind of money and not spend 50, 60,000 to go to college, why not? Right.
Right.
Or even go to college. Even go to college that 60,000 and save it and go to college for free. Now, like you said, all our wrestlers, their intentions are to go to college. We got one in the program right now. And when he was 12 years old, he would tell us, he's a top-notch wrestler. And I told him if I could do it all over again, I would go to the military. I would have went Army or the Marines and wrestled there first, and then came to college. So he was getting his first interview. So he was 10 years old. And he was listening to me. I always tell that story. He got his first interview, and that on TV, and the sports class asked him, said, "So, what do you plan to do after you do wrestling?" He said, "I want to go to the Army." And I'm in the background. I said, "Oh man, why is he saying that, man? I thought we were preparing him to wrestle at the next level." And then after it was all over, he says, "Coach Knox, every time you tell people, you said if you you did it all over again, you go to the Army first." So I had to make sure to clear to him that I would go Army first and then college.
Right.
So it's a lot of doors that are opening up for these
Right.
kids. That's not just for wrestling. There's some other sports too that is opening up for.
Right. Because, my son gravitated to football, but I do believe that the discipline of wrestling helped him with the discipline of football. So, we know that boys like killing it in the wrestling arena, but girls are starting to make a little headway in the arena.
Exactly. That's all. That's awesome. That
Right.
is so awesome.
And there's a lot of girls that's wrestling, and I got a goddaughter that's wrestling over at West, Drusilla Johnson, and she's one of the best. And I believe Coach Taylor up there, he had his first state champion women wrestler last year.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Right. Women's wrestling is starting to evolve. Rise McDougal, she was the first African American, first female, which happened to be African American, state champion at West High, and just her whole story of how she started, very basic levels, but was very coachable. And that's the difference between coaching boys and girls. Is girls, their ears, they listen a lot more because they understand that they don't know everything about the sport. So their ability to adapt and listen to coaches, and that was one of Rise's biggest assets, was her ability to be coachable. and everything that her coaches, instilled in her, and she believed in herself, and she was able to achieve her goal, and that's become a state champion.
Awesome. So are the girls wrestling the boys? Because I know old school, if a few girls used to wrestle and they would be on the mats with the boys.
No, this is the
And my
first year. Last year they had their first inaugural league, but this year is their first year where there's girls only. Their only league, and they're only allowed to wrestle girls, and that's in high school. But on the kids level, it's a little bit different.
and in my opinion, I think that the girls should only wrestle girls,
Right.
and boys should only wrestle boys.
Right.
Even though there are some girls that are capable of beating boys when they're younger, but when you get in that, you can look at mixed martial arts. You don't see those women competing against men,
Right.
nor do you. So I think at that level, if we can ever get it set, the numbers right, where girls are wrestling girls, because this boys wrestling girls is there's no, boys can't win, because if they win the match, they're supposed to. If they
Right.
lose,
Right.
Everybody's looking down on them.
And how many times as an official or as a fan have you seen the little boys go out and like the crowd is cheering against the little boy, because they want the girl to win, and then the little boy loses, and that ruins his career, his taste in his mouth about wrestling. I don't want to wrestle no more because I got beat by this girl. Yeah, and I gotta go talk to my friends, and my friends gonna talk about me because I got beat by this girl. So
Right.
it's a no-win situation
It's
for
a
the boy.
no-win.
But here, I got a story, because I lost my son almost a year ago, in a couple of weeks. But so when I've been, it's, for some reason, it's like the team Hard Knocks. It means that we practice hard, we go hard. And my son came up to me and says, "Daddy, what do you think about having girls wrestle for us?" And I was all against it, like 100% against it. And he just kept nudging me. And he says, "Come on, let's give him a try. So finally I gave in, and we allowed the girls to come join our club. Pop's goddaughter was one of the first girls to wrestle for us. But we brought in a real young girl that was like 7 years old. And we had Quentin Saunders wrestling for him. He was like the number one ranked wrestler in the country through. And we were doing these exercises, and where we hold our feet off the ground for 6 inches, and you do like 20 of it. And Pops can tell you, and Coach Taylor can tell you, that the kids are moan and groan, and they can't keep their feet up. They'll lift it up to 6 feet, drop it back on the ground. But this girl that we brought on the program, she was able to do every exercise to perfection. And like, I was like in shock. And from that point on, it's been proven that, the girls, they can go harder.
Right. And so I think we ought to, make sure girls feel comfortable with being able to wrestle, because, it's such a tough sport that it almost may be somewhat of a stigma for a girl to wrestle, because they may get, you're doing boy sport. But, I always think about when I see female athletes, old school, I think about FloJo, how she was all pretty. She had her hair done, her nails done. You look at, what's her name? The track star that let us down, Sha'Carri Richards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But she stayed fly all the time. And so I think if we could still find a way to make sure girls stay fly.
And see, that's
the right
what Team
word?
Hard Knocks has been blessed at. Lachelle, she constantly provides the kids, with the girls, with bags of lotion, cleaning, ribbons, sports bras, and she makes them, make them still be a girl that participates in sports. I love that. That's very important. That's why I'm working so hard to get Kenny's daughter, Kenny Jr.'s, has Kenny the 3. He's got a twin sister. So, I'm trying to persuade them to keep her girly and get her in some wrestling.
Right. Because we know everybody, when they wrestle anyway, you like a switch turns on when you hit the mat. So, for girls out there listening or parents that have daughters, it's okay to let your daughter wrestle. The switch will come on when she's on the mat, and then it'll come back off when she's off. This is something that we were talking about at this last wrestling meet we were at. Just friends, wrestling friends. We talk about the dynamic of wrestling, and we used to always tell our kids, you don't have no friends on the mat. But again, because society is kind of different now, and everybody is friends, and everybody's a winner, and you don't want to hurt people's feelings. So how do you navigate that right now of again turning that switch on the mat?
LaWanda, I purposely try to teach a technique that I learned from my college coach. Because when I left Wichita with all my uncles and been top-notch athletes, they would always tell me, "No, you have no friends when you're competing." So my coach would tell me, he says, "Look," and I try to use this, and our kids can repeat it. Once I say it, Pops and Kenny will remember me talking about it. But I always start out with, the best thing about wrestling, there's a handshake. There's a handshake before, and there's a handshake at the end. So when you walk up to that mat, he's your friend. When you shake his hands, you're competing. Now he's your opponent. And then after the match, win or lose, you shake hands again. And then after that second handshake, you're friends. And it may take you a while. Like, for instance, with me, I think back about all the guys I've ever wrestled. And the guys that I remember the most are the ones that beat me. And and I said, today, if I see them, I have so much respect for them, because the respect comes from I used to work my butt off. I used to run at night. I used to lift weights. I did everything surrounded so I could be the best wrestler I could be. So I said, that guy beat me. If he beat me, he had to really be working hard to do it. So that respect, and I try to tell this story to all my wrestlers and hoping that they would understand. And so far, we have had a lot of success. Sometimes we have to work with them, but after a while, we get it. They get it, and we move on.
Okay, Coach Taylor, you got a child that is actively wrestling, and everybody loves little Kenny. Everybody loves him. Like, how are you going to navigate that? Because he is a great kid.
Yeah, and it's the difference between being a coach and a dad and an athlete is, as an athlete, I have more control over the outcome of the match, but as a dad, it's a little bit different. As it's a little bit pressure, and it's especially being a dad of an athlete and being a former athlete. And I look at that, like, for example, I'm coaching my son, and his opponent may beat him. I'm looking at his dad, and his dad, they may look at, okay, I didn't beat Kenny Taylor III, I beat Kenny Taylor Jr. So it's a lot of that goes in as a parent, that I'm still learning. I sit back when I didn't have a son, and I watched my older cousins, like, Danny DeShazier, how he coached Tristan and Dap, and I watched Coach Knox, how he coached Toast, and I watched Coach Pops, how he coached Scoop and other dads, and I would take pointers and how I was going to be when I had a son. But it's no way that you can prepare yourself until you are in that corner. And no matter how much advice people give me, like, it's just the on-the-job training type of being a coach dad. It's just a whole different feeling that I can't even explain. But I'm pretty sure that Coach Pops and Coach Knox can understand the feeling that you have when you're coaching your own son.
Yes, it's unreal.
And the other thing so this is kind of interesting. I want to bring this up since you're talking about it, but Kenny 3 he's in a unique position for the first time. He's also has his grandpa that's coaching, his dad, all of his cousins, his uncle, and they're all surrounding him. So it's going to be quite the challenge. But you know what? I'm amazed how he handles it. Sometimes I get to talk to him one-on-one, and some of the response that the questions I may ask, I mean, it's like, man, this guy, he's been in wrestling before. He kind of reminds me of those great guys like Lee Kemp, Kenny Mundy, Jordan Burroughs. The way he handles things at this age, he's on his way to being a great wrestler.
And I went to a tournament, I believe, last week, and that was really my first time watching Lil Kenny wrestle. And I had been hearing, oh, he's good, he's good. And I got to see him. And he really is good. It is like he has like that third eye or whatever. He just like gets it. And because we've all been around wrestling for so long, we understand what that it factor is, And so Kenny Taylor Jr., it's you're gonna have like, because he is good and he's so young, it's gonna be like not a battle, but it's gonna be like intense to have and Coach Knox, I was gonna ask you that, like the pressure of being the founder of Team of Hard Knocks. This legacy has already been set, right? If you go to Hard Knocks, you better be good and you're gonna win. What does that pressure of the name Hard Knocks do, like for you as the founder, and then you got the coaches, for you as coaches? I want everybody to tune in. What does that legacy do to you?
The simple answer is it makes me work harder. It makes me want to continue to educate myself, continue to surround our program around with leaders, continue to have opportunities for the youth, and we've been blessed. The next level of wrestling, I'm like, I tell everybody right now, I'm 726 months old. And so I can't move my knees as well as I used to. So it's important that I put it to the next level and make sure that if we're going to the next level, we have the right, correct leaders in there. And Kenny Taylor, he stepped down from high school so he could lead the team. So it's things like that. I got to kind of do some things. We had some guys that were coaching with us, and they had some bad habits, and I had to do what leaders do. Say, hey, look, if you can't follow this rule or you can't follow that rule, then we're probably going to have you sit back. And USA Wrestling has some of those same rules, but as a leader, everybody's given a responsibility, and that's been my responsibility, is to make sure that these kids are led by the correct people. And sometimes we make mistakes, and we do, but we try to put everybody in the best position so they can be led correctly.
Well, the Team of Hard Knocks, the legacy and the myth and the reality of how good we are, how good we were, and how good we're always going to be. The challenge of sustaining that, it has changed for me. Back in the day when my son was wrestling, we was out here just trying to beat up on people and stuff like that. Just like society has changed, my mind thought has changed. Now for wrestling, for me, that we're going to uphold the name, but it's about opportunities. I have 6 kids from my little league football team that came out and wrestled this year. So the purpose of me coaching, like I said, it has changed. One, I came back because of family, and now that I'm back, I want to show the people what wrestling can do for you. So we still want to win. We still want to be a team of hard knocks, but we want to have good people, make good decisions. Let them know that they are more than just a wrestler, more than just an athlete, that they are the next up in society. So we try to teach them not only wrestling, we try to teach them about God being good. When Coach Knox is there, we end the practice on a prayer. We pray. We pray for the kids. We pray for the coaches. We pray for the parents. So, it has changed from beating up on people to making good people while we beat up on people, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Coach
Yeah,
Jay?
while Pops is there, a shout out. This year is probably the top defensive player in the NFL. Is a rookie. He plays for the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of people don't know his background is wrestling. He's from the state of Pennsylvania. His name is Parsons, that number 11 for the Dallas Cowboys. And his background, one of the top wrestlers in the country, right now is Spencer Lee that wrestled for Iowa. He's injured right now, but those two came off the same wrestling club. Just Spencer ended up weighing about 130 pounds, and Parsons is about 200 pounds. So he can take that skill level into the NFL and do what he does. So that's why I always tell wrestling is not just it's a good sport, base sport for just about every sport you do. Tim Hamilton, you know Timmy Hamilton, Tawanda's son.
Right.
He came in. He ended up being like 6'5", but his daddy saw that he needed to get that foundation from wrestling, so he got that foundation, became a great wrestler, and then he moved on out of wrestling to football and basketball. He was a state champ with Cape and Mount Carmel. So wrestling is a real good foundational sport. And then there's so many life skills in there, you know.
So
Because when you in wrestling, you're gonna get knocked down, but you know, and just like in life, you're gonna get knocked down. You got to get back up.
Got to get up. That's it.
Right. Right. So, Coach Taylor, how are you going to handle? You're the head coach this year. You're the man.
That's right.
So you got the legacy on your shoulders. So we expected some more champs. So how are you dealing with this?
Man, it's just to me as a head coach, I don't want to just, I want to use that term very loosely. I'm titled as a head coach, but the assistants and everybody that's involved with the team of Hard Knocks, it's a collective bargain. So when the things are going good, I want to give the credit out to the assistants and the people that surround the club. And when the things are going bad, and as a head coach, I'm going to take on those hits to the chin. But as the head coach, you know, like I've had to correct a lot of people in the past, you know, these last month or so at competitions. You know, they would make statements like, you know, oh, well, Kenny Taylor, you're the head coach now. You're going to get that program turned back around. And to me, you know, that's a slap in the face, you know, because this program has always been a top-notch program, nationally program. So just to take on those statements from people that, you know, that's just let you know as a coach what people really think about you. So I took this job, I took on this responsibility with much pride and respect to the brand of Team of Hard Knocks. I know we have a lot of good things. Like Coach Pop said, we want to be good people, but we do want to beat up on people. But when we do beat up on people, we want to beat you up and then pick you up afterwards, and you know, still treat you like a human.
Right, like Coach Knox said, we'll shake your hands afterwards. We're good with that. We're good with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but Coach Knox, you got an announcement you want to give out to the world?
Well, actually, I like to announce two things before we get done.
Okay.
Based on all of my cousins, from Dandy to Shazer, down to the last cousin of the hit something that's doing something great right now, that's in college still with wrestling, is Sean DeShazer. We got more cousins going to come up. I think Sean is our only cousin that's still wrestling in college right now. But based on what they've done, like Kenny Taylor, Jr., you know, I can keep listing names go on and on. Dapper DeShazer, Trishan DeShazer,
J.R. Phillips,
J.R. Phillips.
I mean,
you know,
yeah.
J.R.'s on. I'm glad you mentioned J.R. because I want to say something about it, because I was thinking about this the other day. You know, I get a question asked, who's your greatest wrestler that ever wrestled out of your program? If you had to pick one, I can't pick one because they're all different. JR is probably the smartest wrestler that I've ever had on the wrestling team, you know. And then and I was trying to think of something else amazing about JR. He's the only wrestler that we've ever had that didn't wrestle in college, but won matches while wrestling college guys. He left football for a little while and joined a tournament and beat a 3-time national champion in college, and didn't really, everybody overlooked him, you know. As far as wrestling goes, but so the two announcements I got is that based on what Team Hard Knocks done, my dear friend Aaron Meister has hired me as an assistant coach for Friends University. So I'm coaching them at Friends and trying to get some more information out to the community that there's wrestling for girls, well, not girls, but let's just say ladies and guys right here in Wichita, Kansas. So I'm assistant coach over there, and I'm proud of that. And then the other announcement is we're going to open up our own facility wrestling room. Um, there in our community, just around about 6 blocks from my house, and it's going to be a top-notch wrestling gym. Also offer some fitness classes, but we're right there at 3940 East 13. So we're going to wrestle year round there. So if anybody have any interest out, you can come out and do that.
All right. Um, you know, before we get off, I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my uncle Kenny Taylor Sr. I thought he was going to get in this call, and he reminded me he's the OG coach out there. He's the oldest coach with Team of Hard Knocks right now, and I wanted him to get on, but I want to give him a shout out. I'm gonna give a shout out to my brother Danny DeShazer. It's time to end your retirement, bro. It's time to get back on that mat and start giving back. He got a little son, and I know he gonna wrestle, but he's a baby, so you better get out there and get your feet wet now, because you might be a little rusty, a little dusty.
Danny DeShazer, J.R. Phillips, and don't forget that Billy Chatwood is helping the coach too.
Hey, and I got to mention my brother Galen Taylor too.
Oh yeah, Galen. Yes,
got to mention him.
Now, is he coaching this year, or he's just kind of stepping in here and there?
He's like a freelancer, man. He whenever he get a chance, his work schedule with home and work is kind of hectic. So whenever he gets a chance, he makes it into practice every now and then, makes it to a few weekend tournaments. But he's also giving back.
Right. And I want to tell parents, if you have the opportunity, if Galen Taylor is there, let him get your child warmed up. Galen, that's his expertise. He will get your child ready. So if you see him, send your kid over to Galen, because, everybody brings something to the table, and, your kids get all nervous and they get tense before that match. And Galen has this magic, a way of like getting them loose. So look for Galen if he's at the tournaments, everybody.
Right. And I like to say, for any parents, anybody that's watching out there, get your kids involved in something. Like I'm a football coach, and I believe wrestling, track, basketball, it all goes hand in hand with the sport, but also it keeps them around mentors. And at this day and age, with so much going on, I believe a 16-year-old girl just got killed. And I believe, if you put your kids around positive people and positive situations, life situations are going to happen. And my prayers go out to that family. But we got to keep our kids involved in something and try to keep them around mentors. And hopefully these situations won't happen. So if any of you parents is out here, you want to get your kids into wrestling, sports, anything, the address that is up there to get them in wrestling. There's boxing with Tracy Mason, CHD Gym. We talked about ex-football players, and Hunter Jameson came to my mind. He's still out here trying to make it to the NFL. He's at 28. And once he started wrestling, he ended up being a state champion. Never did kid wrestling, but that helped propel him to try to make it to the NFL. And he's still playing football at 29 years old. And he has a dream of making it. So it goes hand in hand. But just get your kids out here involved in something, please. And thank you, LaWanda, for having us on there. Yes, CK1, Coach Knox, Coach Taylor. It's a joy being out there with my family. I know we talked about a lot of family. There's a lot of family that's not blood related, like the Salmontons, like the kids we got out now, the Pierres and the
Watsons,
the Haydens. There's so many names out here that's contributing to the
even Coach Kenny Taylor's side of the family. There's so many names out there, man. And,
so if we forgot anybody, it's just not enough time to name them. We got a guy that's
I would like
UFC
to, before LaWanda ends, I'd like to add just a couple of other women that are very vital to our program right now. LaWanda, you are one for just taking this time to talk about Team of Hard Knocks. You are very influential in our community, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
And then your mom, my Aunt Opal, she's been the number one supporter for us since Danny was 13 years old. So, and then my aunt Pam, who still today, she will make sure the kids are fed. She makes over about 50 bologna sandwiches that we eat. And unique thing about it, I'm at watching OU wrestle, and one of the wrestlers run up to me, "Hey, is Miss Pam around so I can get one of these bologna sandwiches?" And then the new lady in our program is Lachelle Henderson. She has her own program called Butts in the Bleachers, where she tries to provide to make sure that if the kids' parents can't get there, that somebody represents the parent. And sometimes she's sitting in the parents' place and support, making sure those kids get to the tournaments to practice. And she's been there to help me pick kids up and say me, because with me coaching at getting out of practice at Friends University about 5:30 each night. So she's driving around picking up kids and dropping them off at wrestling practice, and she's even become the team mom for Friends University. She served them food during this Christmas holiday. So without the women of our program, I'm pretty sure Kenny can name some other women that are, and Pops can name some other women that makes a difference. But it's a community involvement with our program.
Right. Shout out to Lachelle. She's the GOAT for real. Like, she puts in major work. And like I say, my Aunt Pam, like I say, y'all, I know we keep talking about our family, y'all, but this wrestling is in our blood, man. The fact that my Aunt Pam would bring sandwiches like Coach Knox was saying, like, y'all, it's expensive to bring food every week, but she would do it faithfully. Coach Knox, I got an idea. So in your new building, maybe you ought to do like a wall of fame and just start listing names on the wall. That would be awesome.
Right. It's
2 walls.
It's actually that's what we're in the process of doing. When we get finished there, man, the vision is a beautiful vision. We just got to finish it.
Okay. All right. Okay. So any parting words from our new head coach?
No, I want to take this time to thank everybody that tuned in to listen to this broadcast, and thank you, LaWanda, for having us and giving us a stage to represent our team for this community. I want to thank the coaches that's involved with the team of Hard Knocks, the parents that gave us, put the trust in us as coaches with their children, and then again, just thank everybody for tuning in.
Awesome. Coach Pops, you already put your word out, right?
I just want to give a shout out to Romero Cotton. He's about to wrestle next month. He's MMA, another guy from our kids club, 4-time state champion, 4-time football champion. He's still out here grinding. Dapty Shazer, he's still out here grinding. He got dreams of going to the USA wrestling. He want to go as high as he can. S. Sean DeShays out in Atlanta at Liberty, ranked number 2 in the country. The program works. To family and friends, get your kids involved. Thank you.
Right. All right. Well, I just want to thank you guys for coming on. I really do appreciate it. And one of the biggest reasons that I wanted you guys on is because our young people, some people think they're lost and they aren't excelling the way they should, but there's so many people on the grassroots, boots on the grounds, that are working with our children, and I know the investment that Team of Hard Knocks has placed on our kids. And so I just want to make sure that people know that if you're looking for something for your kids to do, boys, girls, whatever, think about wrestling. Maybe you don't go to college to wrestle, but it would give you so much discipline that your child can use in life later on. And I just want to give a shout out again to you guys for putting in so much work. And man, the hours, the travel time, the fuel time, it's a lot. And so I want to thank you guys on behalf of the community for the work that you're putting in. The name TOHK is synonymous with wrestling, synonymous with Wichita. And I just want to give you guys a shout out and just encourage you to keep doing the good work that the Lord called us to do. All right.
March Madness.
Yeah.
March Madness.
March Madness is coming. So
champs on the mat. Champs in the classroom.
Champs on the mat. Right. As long as we instill the championship mentality, we're going to be all right.
Yes,
So I want to thank you guys for again coming on the show. I want to thank the audience for tuning in. And remember, this is Think About It, the show that guarantees that you will absolutely have something to think about when it's all over. Bye.
catch the replay on Play It Again Sports with Coach Fox.
Got it. Got it. Bye.